Right, Infernal Blessings. We are back with another video. All right, a couple quick announcements before we begin. If you are interested in a spiritual reading or a spiritual consultation, I offer various different types of spiritual readings, telepathic demonic readings, shadow work readings, which, as I've said millions of times over and over, and I'll keep saying it, shadow work readings is always a great thing to do to uncover the shadow and the hidden self, to see what you got going on in the deep recesses of your subconscious mind, dealing with the true self, the self you've obviously been programmed to block out. And it's a great reading to do to point you in the direction, because people are always asking, again, what type of ritual work should I be doing? And as I've said before, ritual work, in my opinion, should always be designed first and foremost to address your needs first before you start focusing on all your wants, okay? I also offer deity readings to see what gods, goddesses, demons, and spirits walk with you. Not to worship them, but to further strengthen your relationship with them on the left-hand path and the path of the occult. Santa Muerte readings I offer, Egyptian oracle readings, Voodoo readings, if you're interested in them. I always keep forgetting to mention those type of readings. Or maybe you're just interested in a spiritual consultation, which, again, I got to keep clarifying this because people keep not hearing this part. A spiritual consultation is not a reading. A reading involves divination. A consultation does not involve that. A consultation is just that. Most people use it just to ask a bunch of questions. They usually have a list of questions. They want to talk about certain things on the occult, or maybe they got something specific going on in their life they want to talk about, or focus on certain areas. It can be used for any of the aforementioned. If you're interested in either or, shoot me an email at khnum19@gmail.com. Please include in your email your full weekly availability and the time zone that you are in, and we will set something up that works out for you and that works out for me. All right? Also, if you want to sign up for classes, it's the number one email I get all the time. What type of classes do you offer? How do I sign up for your classes? This, that, and the other. The way to sign up for classes is to go to the Primordial Chaos Patreon page, located at patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. Go to Tier 3. Tier 3 gives you access to the 3 monthly classes I do every month on Patreon for Patreon members only. And it also gives you access to the group ritual we do together at the end of the month. Also, keep in mind, when you join, you don't just get access to the classes from the day you join moving forward. You get access to everything in the archives, which is going back 4+ years, approaching 5 years almost now. All right. Again, that's patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. And if you want to see all the various ongoing classes that I'm doing right now, just go to the page, go to the collection section. You will see all of the classes that are archived and that are ongoing, which is a bunch of them. You'll see everything that's there. Again, for the amount of content material that I'm covering, you're not going to find it anywhere else. You're not going to find it for the price that I'm doing it at. And if you really, really want to take that next step on the path to self-mastery, the occult, and the left-hand path, I would encourage you to check it out. I say that with confidence, not arrogance. All right. Also, don't forget to check out the Primordial Chaos social media pages. You can find me on Instagram at Primordial Chaos 9, all one word, Primordial Chaos 9. You can find me on Facebook, 2 words, Primordial Chaos. I also upload all the new short YouTube tutorials to the Facebook page. And you can also find me on TikTok. PrimordialChaos3.com is the handle on TikTok. The social media platforms, I'm always updating them. Any classes, events, things of that nature, you can find on those pages. That's the best way to keep up with me and what I'm doing. Also, mark your calendar, 7th Annual Journey of the Black Adept Conference, which will take place in Hollywood, Florida from October 31st to November 3rd this year. Looking forward to that. More to come on that as we get next couple weeks. We'll be signing people up beginning next month for that. So yeah, we're planning. More information to come on that real soon. Don't forget to check out the Primordial Chaos podcast, available on Spotify and all major podcast platforms. The direct link to the podcast, along with my contact email address, the links for the social media pages, and the direct link for the Primordial Chaos Patreon page to sign up for classes, All of those links are in the description box of this video you're watching right now. All right, you see the title. You must be born again in your subconscious mind. Tell you where this title came from. As some of you know, before Dr. Delbert Blair transitioned on a few years ago, I was fortunate in them last few years he was here to establish a personal relationship with him. I first met Dr. Blair in 2007 or 8 in Brooklyn, New York, at an event and a lecture he was speaking, and kind of developed a relationship gradually with him around that time, which built up until 2015-16, around 2000. From 2007-8 up until roughly that point, up until pretty much the time he transitioned. But I know I have a personal spiritual connection with him, and this is personal. Since he's transitioned on, I'm able to sometimes tap in with him and communicate. Well, sometimes I just get these communications from him to tap into some of his classes, his teachings. This is kind of where the title comes from. That's why I'm telling you all that. Because he had talked about something similar to this. And so I got a clear message to do a short tutorial on something in the area that he talked about similar a while back. So we know this term, you must be born again, is a very familiar terminology used in the Christian religion and faith, right? They're going to say you must be born again, you must be saved. Now, the funny thing or the twist on that is it's true, but not born again in the sense from a Christian or religious perspective. I look at now that you must be born again. It's when we're always talking about on the occult and the left-hand path that you must reprogram your subconscious mind, right? Because as I've said many times before, programming is a double-edged sword, right? Programming, it can be something positive, it could be something negative, depending on the intent behind it. As I said before, we've all been indoctrinated and programmed in an incorrect way from the very moment we were birthed into this world, and then that indoctrination and programming starts at a very small, very, very young age, from the time of being a small child to the point where somebody wakes up to the realization of that a lot of it is bullshit. So being born again, just like they say in Christianity, it's like being reprogrammed, getting the truth, right? Tapping into the realization and the reality of what that truth is. So being reborn again in the subconscious mind connects with elements. One, shadow work, right? The only way you're going to be reborn again is to deal with the shadow and the hidden self, something that's talked about constantly. For those of you taking the shadow work classes, you know what I'm talking about. Or for those of you doing shadow work, real shadow work, I'm not talking about that fluffy shit, because there's a lot of bullshit out there. As I said before, shadow work now, that too has become very commercialized. Just like some things on the occult and the left-hand path, a lot of the fluffinators and the new agey conscious movements have now adapted it. I'm not saying all, but some. There's a lot of bullshit out there on shadow work. You got to be careful. Sometimes, I told you, a lot of the fluffy shit, when they talk about, my inner child and this and that. Look, there's truth to that inner child thing, but a lot of people have taken that and made it very new agey. It's kind of fluffy and this, that, and the third. So just like anything else, there's a lot of bullshit out there. Why do I say that? I say that because what we do on the occult and the left-hand path, and I want to make that crystal clear, than say somebody coming from a more new agey conscious type of perspective. We're dealing with the hardcore jest of things, a lot of things that people ain't going to deal with, okay? And it goes a little bit deeper than dealing with your inner child, right? A lot of it there's a lot of psychological aspects to it, and there's a lot of aspects of it that it's emotionally painful, right? Because you're going to be dealing with things sometimes that are there, but you've been suppressing it, or you've been avoiding it, or you have certain fears, insecurities, this, that, and the third about it, right? So that's a key element to being born again in the subconscious mind. And it also involves one of the most important elements of that. As I sat there reflecting on this, and reflecting on when Dr. Delbert Blair taught about it, and when I was just recently getting insight to it today and messages from him today, as I was zoning in on it, a lot of it is taking in the correct information. See, a basic step like that, we don't know how damaging it is when misinformation is programmed in us. It becomes really fucking damaging when you really accept it as truth. Because regardless if something is what somebody is labeling true or false, when the individual accepts it within themselves, to that person, I'm not saying everybody else outside of that person, it becomes true. Now don't get me wrong, there's just certain things where you apply common sense and reasoning that's just truth. We're not talking about that. Because as I said, certain things of a spiritual nature, not all of it can be confirmed or fact-checked by some book or some source. So sometimes you have to reason things out. So that's usually how you get to the telltale, the bottom of things. But what tends to happen is when people are indoctrinated for such a long period of time with misinformation, they develop something we call cognitive dissonance, which no matter how much common sense, reasoning, truth, and facts you hit that person upside the head with, they're just going to be in denial and won't accept it. Because that's what happens when you intake for long periods of time misinformation. You develop what they call cognitive dissonance. And that's what it is. We all have run into people like that. I mean, right in front of them, 2 + 2 is 4, but they'll refute it, right? They'll find some way to dance around it. They'll try to find some excuse not to accept or validate it as being truth or facts, especially when it's somebody who is really engulfed in a faith-based belief system. I mean, you could lay it out on the line right in front of them as plain as day, as they say, and they'll be in denial, right? That's cognitive dissonance, because they will refuse to accept anything that challenges or steps on their belief system. We see this all the time. It happens all the time. Okay? So these are things we have to take into account. When you hear me say that term over the years, part of working magic, especially black magic, is reprogramming the subconscious mind with the right things. Training the subconscious mind with the correct habits, right? Making the adjustments on yourself that you need to make so you can be the best that you can be in all facets of life. So you can master yourself on what I call the 5 points of self-mastery. Spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, and financially. That's the goal, people. And as I've said many times before, when somebody asks you, why are you on this path, right? And that's one of my number one question I like to ask new people I meet on this path. Why are you on this path? Why are you here? What is it you expect to get from being on this path? What are your goals and objectives, right? And to me, it should be, it doesn't have to be exactly that way, but it should be, in alignment with those 5 points of self-mastery. And as I said before, and I'll say it again, look, if you just here because you want to be the Harry Potter magician, or you want to be the internet magician, you know, I'm going to do all these spells and curses and love magic and money magic, which, look, I'm not saying that that's not part of this path in working magic. What I am saying is, if you are disregarding the steps you need to take to really deal with yourself, and you're just here for all of that stuff only, I can tell you your journey on this path will be very short-lived. Okay? That shouldn't be the foundational reason why you are here. Okay? One, you should be here for knowledge of self, getting truth, right? Getting clarity on a lot of the bullshit that was programmed into us from a kid. A lot of us, I'm not saying everybody, but majority of us who have been raised here in the Western Hemisphere, in Europe, America, any part of these, what they call the Western Hemisphere, has been heavily influenced and indoctrinated by Christianity and religion. Regardless if you didn't grow up in a religious, I keep telling people this, we go, I didn't grow up in a religious, strict Christian household, but you live in a country that's governed by it, that there's elements of it, and it does influence you to a degree that you may not be aware of. So there is still an aspect of influence there. It's unavoidable. It's even more detrimental to those who are raised, say, came up in a strict Christian or religious upbringing. It could be Islam, it could be Judaism, right? Whatever it may be. So very normal for that to take place. So that programming is deep. I'm telling you, it's deep. That programming it's no joke. It is layers to it and levels to it, right? And it's not something that goes away overnight. It's not something that, in 2 months' time it's done, or it's not something in 3 months' time. I worked on it for 3 months. No. Sometimes it's a continual process and a continual journey. Okay? And sometimes it has to develop over a certain amount of years. This is why I always say, be patient with yourself. Right? When we talk about patience, yes, patience with others and patience with things overall in your life, but sometimes we're not patient with ourselves. Right? All of these are elements of being reborn again in your subconscious mind. Right? These are things you've got to consider. Look, I know everybody wants a quick fix on it. Most people say, no, not me, but yes. That's where the impatience factor comes in. Everybody thinks this is going to be resolved by a few snaps of the fingers and poof, puff the magic dragon, voila, abracadabra, whatever it may be. All life's problems are fixed. It's not true, folks. There's no quick fix-all. I don't care who you don't listen to anybody on the internet or anybody that's claiming they got a quick fix scheme to get it all fixed. Right? Doesn't work like this. Work. I promise you, if you put in the work, you'll get the results. And if you've been following my channel or you've been keeping abreast of what I do as far as teaching, because I don't consider myself somebody that preaches to somebody. I consider myself a teacher. That's what the name Baniti means, teacher. Go look it up. For those that don't know, why did I choose that name? And as you see, I don't change that name. That's the name you guys know me in the open, in the public, on the surface, right? Because I try to just teach. I let you take the information and assimilate it and do with it as you see need be. Okay? So this is a process, and for all the years I've been doing this, I never promoted as you could do this and poof, it's fixed. Some of you guys over the years have reached out to me with problems and situations to resolve certain things, and I'm straight up with you. I'm honest with you. It's going, this is what needs to be done. This is the work that's got to be put in. This is what we need to do. Okay, and that's just the facts. Okay. Now, some things can be dealt with and addressed and resolved quicker than other things, right? Sometimes, depending on the severity of a situation, is going to determine the level of work that needs to be put in. And that's just being, as they say, real. I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm not going to tell you. And here's the other thing sometimes people don't understand when it comes to work and issues. Sometimes you think the problem on the, or what you think might be the main problem, sometimes the spirits will direct you in a whole different direction, because you might say, well, nothing's happening, I'm not getting results, and then it shifts to something else. That's because that's the spirits showing you there's something of a greater importance that you must be dealing with. It's not the fact that you might be looking at it that I'm not getting results. It's not that you're not getting results, it's just there's something beyond that you need to be looking at. And sometimes we don't see it. Okay? So this is why it's important. As I've said before, I've always used the term, we have a lot of people that read books, but we study, we do research. We really, whether it's books on the internet, researching, the questions we ask, we're really involved and in depth of what we do when it comes to our learning process. As opposed to the reality is, a lot of people read books and they can just, as I said many times before, regurgitate information. they think it makes them sound heavy, and then they get in circles or around groups of people, and then they just want to regurgitate shit that they think in their mind is going to sound deep and heavy and impress people. That's not what we do. We don't just read to regurgitate shit. We read to study, to learn, and to master ourselves. Okay? These are all steps and elements of being reborn in the subconscious mind. And once you're reborn and you've programmed that subconscious mind, that's when things start to change. That's when paths that are blocked or obstructed become open and clear again. That's when things start to manifest. The things you're trying to get accomplished, your goals, all these things start now. You see the clear path to them and how you can accomplish them. Okay? Super important and super critical. All right? Other than that, I just wanted to throw those elements out there because, like I said, this again was inspired by some information and my relationship with Dr. Delbert Blair from going back a little bit. And these are things that stay with me, right? These are things that are such important jewels that they just, you never forget them, right? Because these are keys that have helped me literally over the years change my life and do a complete 360 into something way more successful and more accomplished. And I want you guys to look at it the same way, but obviously you're going to have to take that same methodology and apply it of how that's going to work, obviously, for you, right? Because it's not the same for everybody. All right, other than that, hopefully this short tutorial helped you. Hopefully you learned something from it and you can take it and you can apply it and continue your journey. All right. So again, if you need to reach out to me for a spiritual reading, a spiritual consultation, again, my contact email address, the link to the Primordial Chaos podcast, all the direct links to the social media pages, the direct link to the Primordial Chaos Patreon page to sign up for classes. All of those links and how to get at me and get information and sign up, book readings, all of those links are in the description box of this video that you're watching right now. That's going to do it for me. I'm about to check out. Infernal blessings. We'll talk soon.